Alright guys, it's me, your boy, back again, and today I want to talk about an issue that I think is very pervasive in kickboxing and in Muay Thai. And that issue, as you can see by this card, is One Friday Fights. And before I even get to that, you see I'm pretty small today. And I'm pretty small today in the box because this is a PowerPoint. So this is a new format. Again, like I said before, I want to try this out so I can get ideas across a little bit better, because unfortunately I don't really have the time to do the video essays I used to do. Got a couple more jobs now, but I still want to talk about this. And you might be wondering, well, what's the issue with One Friday Fights? Everyone love Friday Fights, and that's where you're wrong, bitch. I don't like Friday Fights. I'm just kidding. I love Friday Fights. But there's a big issue with them, and you might not know. If you might know what it already is, if you care about like the dynamics of how a promotion should run certain things and how you build things in a promotion, culminate in things and storyline, stuff like that. But before we get into that, I need you guys to do me a favor. I need you to like, comment, subscribe, and share the video around, please, in all seriousness, to help out with the channel. Really appreciate that. I'm normally going to do that now at the start of the video. But so if you can skip 10 seconds, I don't mind. But yeah, please like, comment, subscribe. Do it for Asatem Pau. Do it for America the way he does, alright? Do it for America by not getting that bonus. Anyway, other than that though, guys, let's move on. So, One Championship has a very barren ranking system. I already complained about this. You guys know this. Divisions only have 5 ranked fighters. Every division after featherweight has no ranked fighters, only the champion, which makes divisions, and by the extension, the champions look weak, at least to casuals. Be like, there's only 5 guys and there's a champion. You don't look that strong in the very shallow division, especially when you see how other promotions do that. Boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai. It generally doesn't look good because it makes it look shallow. It makes it look like you don't have a lot of depth to your promotion, and and that's technically what's going on now. However, it's higher quality, much lower quantity, and quantity is still just as important as quality, in my opinion. So yeah, just starting off, I think we kind of already know One Championship has very, very barren divisions, and that is a problem. Now, here's a good example of a weak Division in One. Now, all of these fighters are good fighters. Tankai is a good fighter. He's still the champion because Akbar Dulaev beat him by TKO, actually, but he missed a weight. So basically, it was a non-title fight, kind of like on Nabil versus Superlek, where Nabil smoked Superlek. However, and Superlek lost his title, but that was because he missed weight. But let's look at this, alright? The men's featherweight division of MMA, a weaker Division 1 with little name value. These guys are all good fighters. They could do well in any promotion, I think, especially Tankai, especially Akbar Dulaev. They're all good. Tan Lei was on Dana White's Contender Series. They're all good guys, but here's the thing. Shamil Gostinov, Ilya Fremenov, no one knows who they are. No one knows who Tan Lei is. I know who he is, but not the average person, and they don't promote him that well, because he's a former champion who is not well promoted at all. And look at number 5, Martin Nguyen is still there. He's literally retired. So this is an awful division. By default, an awful division, because I don't even know the last time a featherweight fight happened in one for MMA. So off the bat, this is one of the weaker divisions you can use as an example because of that. There is no motion. The guy's still the champion, but again, he lost his last fight. It's just a weak division. It's a weak division, and the strongest thing it has is the skill of the fighters. The worst thing about it is its a lack of depth, its a lack of motion, its a lack of name value, because although these guys are good fighters, there isn't much there. People don't know who they are. They generally don't know who they are, and they're largely forgotten, because MMA is somewhat forgotten. One Championship. Now, let's look at bantamweight kickboxing. Absolutely stacked division. You got Jonathan Haggerty, who's the champion, who proved that he's a real kickboxer now. Again, beating Wei Ray, a guy who's a former K1 champion, who's on the 20-fight win streak. Ilyas Inahachi, Infusion champion. Again, was a former flyweight champion. Pechanong, former champion. Hiroki Akimoto, former champion. Superlek, former champion. This is a great division. All of these guys are championship material. This is a great division. Every one of these guys could headline a Friday fight or a one-fight night on Amazon Prime. They can all main event it. This is a great, great division that is... Everyone is a championship level player. There's no one here that doesn't really belong. And that's wonderful. Jonathan is a star. Wei Ray is notable in China and in Japan. Ilyas Inahachi, known in Europe. Pechanong, one of the best straight kickboxers to come out of Thailand who weren't really Muay Thai fighters. Hiroki Akimoto, one of the best Japanese kickboxers, although until the arrival of the K1 talent, where Akimoto was less of a K1 talent, more so homegrown and One Championship. And Superlek is Superlek. And again, great fighter. So Other than that, though, this division speaks for itself. And guess what? Like I said, stacked division, former champions, all have notable names. And Yuki Yoza, he next up, man. He next up. He beat Fury, man. Anyway, on to the next. As I was saying. Well, it's just MMA that has the problem, right? Well, no, this is an issue across all the combat sports Ing One Championship has to offer, including our beloved kickboxing and Muay Thai. But wait a minute, you're talking about name value and you're talking about depth. So you just showed that one has more depth than the other. Not exactly, I just showed that one has more name value. Although featherweight does have less depth because there's a retired guy in their top 5. But that is an issue on Chatrasit Udang and the promotion, the matchmaking, and the rankings. Another issue altogether. But anyway, as I was saying. So, the issue is that one does rely heavily, way too much, on their stars. So, we got Takeru, big star, Rodtang, big star, the biggest star arguably, and Stamp, biggest female star. Chatri can't clone these guys, these 3 guys, 5 times over and have them fill up the division. If he could, yeah, there'd be a money-making machine over in one. That'd be crazy, right? But you can't. You just can't. You can't bring back Andy Hug from the dead. Just want to show off my shirt too. So it's one of those things where like, okay, cool, these guys are natural stars, and Rodtang and Stamp were actually well built up stars that they made their names in one championship. They really became who they were to the world scene in one. Takeru was a legend in K1. Only 3 division champion, was a big star there, flamboyant, was a part of the match. Attention Nasukawa won the highest, the highest gate ever, I think, for a kickboxing match. One of the highest gates ever for a fight ever in Japan. So Takeru and Tenshin literally proved that kickboxing can sell if marketed and promoted the right way. The way Rise and K1 did like 4 years ago now. However, is one really doing that? I don't think they are, and let's go into it. And why hasn't one produced any new stars? Like, I don't consider Nico Carrera and Nabil not in the stars yet. They could be, but they're not quite there yet. Nabil's getting a little close because he is naturally a freak, but it's one of those things where they're not having him main event stuff because I think once he starts main eventing, like he himself, because I don't think he's ever actually main evented any event, then I'll start to believe. Nico Carrera also has never main evented, and he's an English speaker, so he's actually would be easier to promote for one because one, he's Western, he's a white guy from Europe, so more value for them, so that way like you can appeal more to Europeans, more to Americans, because the guy speaks English. He looks more like people from the United States, from Canada, even Latin America will probably choose to watch him over Nabil. But that's a side point, totally different subject. Point is, these guys, although they're just shy of title contention, or Nabil already is champion, they're at that level or slightly below. It's one of those things where you can't really run a promotion just off of these guys. These are the guys that would, if it was like in the UFC structure, would be at the 5s, the 3s, the 4s. But again, one is kind of putting them similar to that level. But anyway, on to the next. Now, what can one do? Let's see how the UFC does it. Obviously, I watch MMA, I watch the UFC. I'm sure you guys watch the UFC too. If you watch Muay Thai and kickboxing, look at that. We got a champion. Oh, wow. We all know these guys are great fighters. Volk, one of the best featherweights. Marab, great bantamweight. Pantoja, great. All these guys could have real stake for being the best of their division ever. But that's beside the point. I'm just pointing out that, again, like, look at the way people view these MMA guys over at the UFC. And look at that. They have all the way down to top 15. Oh, those are the pound-for-pound rankings. Yeah, Islam at number 1. I thought those were the lightweight rankings. But anyway, as I was saying. So, excuse me. Oh, wait, sorry. I was just reading something. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. Look at that. All the way at the bottom. Kaya Sakura, right? Rising champion. All right, cool. He failed against the champion, but they got to put him somewhere. But look at that. Former champion, Joshua Van. Nice prospect. Bruno Silva prospect. Tim Elliott, Tagir. All of these guys are good fighters, and they all have their own niche fan base. And that's at flyweight, a more obscure division. Meanwhile, over here at featherweight, you got Calvin Kattar, Dan Niga, David Onama. All of these names have a bit of a cult following in them. Arnold Allen, Mazvar Evolov, Yair Rodriguez, Ilia Topuria, Diego Lopez, Max Holloway. All those guys have their fans and people saying, I'm going to put my hat behind them. I'm a fan of that guy, which is a good thing. It's good when the UFC is able to promote these guys as individuals, show their highlight reels, and do all that sort of stuff. Something that, one, although they're able to do well with their stars, they don't do it well with their non-stars, if that makes sense. The way the UFC will do something like top finishers from UFC X event, and this is why you should watch them, because of this finish or this performance, so on and so forth. So, again, this is a very good thing by the UFC that they do this top 15 thing. So now, the UFC each has an easy-to-follow ranking structure, 15 fighters per division, clear path forward, narrative opportunities. That's a big one. Narrative opportunities is arguably the most important one on this list. So, yeah, I'm glad I put that in nice, beautiful gold, too, for the 1 gold. But alright, on to the next, though. Now, why narratives matter in fighting. The WWE and pro wrestling are far more popular than any form of combat sports. This is due to the colorful cast of characters and their actions. It's a soap opera, based on a scripted form of stage play. Again, pro wrestling and combat sports are more similar than they are different in the sense that a guy walks out to a song, he has people who cheer for him, he has people who boo for him, he fights a certain way, he wins, yeah, he loses, no, my guy lost. They're very, 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 very similar in how people react to them. The only difference is that because pro wrestling is obviously staged and scripted, again, like a soap opera, you can go all in on the characters of the show because it is a fake sport. That is the point. They are competing in a fake... All these characters, these interesting characters, are competing in a fake sport for a fictional title in a fictional storyline. Where the difference and the more difficult nature of it is that real fighters are real people who are real athletes. Not that these guys obviously don't train, but they're not training per se to win a competition. They're training to perform in the show, the same way a trapeze artist does, so on and so forth. Not that they're not athletes, but they're not competitive athletes. Not to crap on pro wrestling, because I love pro wrestling, which is why I brought this up. Now, the face and the heel. Heroes and villains are in every major story ever, which is why we root for a hero and root against the villain. Wrestling example, Steve Austin versus Mick McMahon, one of the most famous feuds in WWE history, one of the most famous feuds in pro wrestling history. I'm sure there's a guy who's heard of Vince McMahon, not even just for his scandals, and heard of Steve Austin, also not just for his scandals. So, yeah, it's one of those things where like there was a clear good guy and there's a clear bad guy. You boo the bad guy, he's such a bad guy, I want him to lose. The good guy, hell yeah, take it to the bad guy. Oh, he insults the bad guy reacts like, oh my god, I can't believe he said that. And it's a part of the show. It's a good thing. And there's comeuppance, there's highs and lows, so on and so forth. It's a good story. It's a good show. And it culminates usually, especially in the old way, at a pay-per-view or now a PLE, as the WWE likes to call them. So there is a storyline that culminates at a climax, and then the new storyline takes place with the new main characters and the new main antagonists. So that's kind of how that works. Now, faces versus heels in fighting. Like pro wrestling, there are fighters that fans boo and fighters that fans cheer. This is what makes the combat sports experience unique from any other sport, because people are booing that guy because of just how he is as a person. People are cheering that guy because of how he is as a person. Again, when Tony Ferguson, when he's on his legendary 12-fight win streak, and then on his legendary 8-fight losing streak, people cheered for him all the way through it. And even before, they're like, who's this guy? He's calling out Conor, he's calling out Habib. Who is this guy? Who does he think he is? I want to see him lose. Then they see his eccentricity, his fun style. Actually, I'm starting to like him now. Wow, he won the interim belt. Oh man, his story's so tragic. The natural storyline of his career makes him a compelling character, even though he's obviously not a character per se. He's a real human being. Same thing with Kevin Lee. He's naturally a villain, and he had a lot of losses, even though at his peak he could have been the champion. But because of who he was and how he behaved, people would often not celebrate his victories. They would be like, whatever, forget him. He's going to lose at the top, because they want him to lose at the top. And when he would lose, people would celebrate it. Now, you can think what you want about that they're jerks or not, because again, at the end of the day, he's a real person, but that's kind of how it goes. That's how people view the faces and the heels. Think of Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena. People viewed Bilal Muhammad as the heel because he's boring. We don't like him. We want an exciting champion. Jack Maddalena is the face because he is exciting. Again, different reasons to boo and cheer, but at the end of the day, people are booing one guy and cheering the other. So, that is how faces and heels work in fighting. Now, this can also lead to things like face versus faces matchups where people want to like both guys, famously in the UFC, Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje's rivalry, and of course, a good example, Batista and The Undertaker in the Ruthless Aggression era. Very good example of face versus face, heel versus heel, so on and so forth, and that's kind of how it goes. And again, because of that, guys like Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier can main event a pay-per-view without a real belt on the line. And that's a good thing. That means the UFC did a good enough job to make a compelling fight that it's like, hey, there doesn't have to actually be a real title on the line in this pay-per-view, because we'll put this BMF title, which again is not a real belt. It's just a symbolic belt. It's a silly belt. It's the equivalent of a hardcore belt in WWE. And they fight for it, and you're more concerned with the fight than really the title itself, because 9 times out of 10, people are more concerned with the storyline and the dramatic outcome of what's going on. People might want to see their fighter win the title, but it's because it's their fighter. They don't particularly care about like the title per se. They care about their fighter finding success, and The title is more of a symbol of success, that you are the best, and that is evidence that you are the best fighter in that division in whatever promotion you're in. So that's kind of why people want that guy to win the UFC title, the one title, Bellator, Ryzen, PFL, whatever. And that's how that works. So how does one use them? Now, I'm going to make myself even smaller. So the way one uses them, and I don't think they use them too well, honestly, is that one doesn't use heels in the promotion normally. They only promote faces like Takeru, big face, people love Takeru. Legend, Samay, had an incredibly long career outside of it. But the only heels that really exist, rarely any heels, are like Shinya Aoki, who's always been the heel. He's always been kind of an asshole. Like, no else to say about it, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's always been a jerk. And I've never liked Shinya Aoki because I think he's a jerk. And Rodtang, I put him as heel because a lot of the ways that his behavior, the showboating and all that, that's more heelish behavior, more villainous. Oh, he's showing off. He thinks he's so good, and it entertains the crowd. But in terms of storyline, it can be viewed as heelish. And honestly, the way he's missed weight, pulled out of fights, you can argue that those are heel moves. Where Takeru, when they face, like for example, I'm a Takeru fanboy, so I'm a little biased, I'll admit. But when Takeru was supposed to face off with Rodtang at 1162-65, Rodtang pulled out because of an injury. Then at 1172, when Rodtang beat Takeru, knocked him out in the first round, it was real that Takeru was injured with the rib injury, but Takeru stayed in the fight. And I know a lot of people were saying, oh, Rodtang would have fucking pulled out. He would have done this, he would have done that. I'm like, sure, but like, I was thinking about that. Like, I'm trying to be fair to him as a fighter. He should be preserved with preserving himself at all costs. But Takeru's like, no, I'm fighting in Japan. I can't do this. No. Which is more noble thing to do. And again, that's not a judgment call on either of them. Rodtang is looking out for himself, as he should. It's his life on the line. It's his health on the line. At the end of the day, you should look out for number one. Same thing with Takeru. That nobility can get you killed in the long end of the day, and it could cost you a little bit of your career. I'll fight anyone everywhere. Yeah, I hope you do, but what if you fight 5 knockout artists in a row? Do you really want to fight them? Yeah, I know. But anyway, that has less to do with faces and heels. But that's basically how one uses them. They more so have faces and legends than they do straight heels. They don't have that many Shinya Aokis, unfortunately. I think more people like him in kickboxing and Muay Thai would be better overall for the promotion and just the sports in general. But that's because the sport tends to have less trash talk. And although that's generally a good thing, it can hurt you because, unfortunately, how greatest society is right now. Karate Combat, for those who like Karate Combat, was going to know, no, we do karate, but now they want the inverse. They use influencers, there's trash talk, even though it's more traditional karate, and it's basically just a hybrid form of MMA, but that's what karate is technically, if you really want to break it down. But they had to do that so they can actually get more eyes, and now they're more successful than they've ever been, and they have people like Chat Receipt crashing out on them, trying to sabotage their events in Thailand, which is crazy. But that's beside the point. But anyway, point is, one isn't using faces, heels, and as the way that they should, and they aren't pushing narratives the way that they should. So, but let's see a good example of it. Let me move my face back. A good example of the UFC making a storyline just with a guy's career. And that's prime example, Paddy Pimblett. Paddy Pimblett. People love or hate Paddy Pimblett, and I'm not a Paddy Pimblett hater. I've always watched his fights because he's an interesting fighter, interesting character of a person. So, do I think he gets some favorable treatment? Yeah, I do, but he's still an interesting guy, and I think he's generally good for MMA because he's going to attract more audience to that. The same way I didn't like Conor McGregor because I didn't like his antics, but he did bring more eyes to the sport, made him more popular in Europe, of course, Ireland, and the UK because of that, because of the close proximity. So, let's see how Paddy Pimblett's story is and how that narrative structure works. So, Paddy Pimblett, quick timeline of events. Shows up in the UFC, former Cage Warriors champ. Shows up in the UFC and has a hard fight against that Luigi guy. He almost gets knocked out, and fans believe, dude, this guy's overhyped. He's going to get exposed as soon as he fights anyone good. He fights against the guys his level of competition, Gazula Vargas, Jordan Levitt, and he's able to win. He wins, and he wins via finish, even though he actually struggles a little bit in those fights. Then, he fights Jared Gordon. That's another person at his level of competition. He wins against them in a controversial way. He should have lost. Everyone agrees, right? And he's delusional about the win. He's like, no, I won that fight. Everyone's like, dude, no one thinks you won that fight. No one thinks you won the fight because you just didn't. You got outstruck. You didn't win a single round. And then after that, he goes on to fight better opposition. So he starts to fight the guys like Tony Ferguson, Bobby Green, and Michael Chandler, and he's able to win against them. And when he fought Tony, they were like, damn, Tony could actually beat him. But then, and he actually did struggle a little bit against Tony, But overall, he was able to beat him to a decision. Bobby Green, he was actually outstriking Bobby Green a little bit, out-kicking him. And he made Bobby Green panic shoot, which is low IQ on Bobby's move. But that's not Paddy's problem. And he taps him out in a crazy way. And then the most emphatic one, the way he just beat Michael Chandler everywhere. He beat him better the way than Charles Oliveira did. Normally, when Michael Chandler in this loss, he's able to rock his opponent. Not against Paddy Pimblett. He was barely able to hit him clean. And because of that, people are now saying, yeah, he's better now, but, he's still not going to beat Arman. He's not going to beat Italy. He's not going to beat Islam. They're moving the goalposts, and now their fans are arguing this and this and this, and they're having these conversations. And that's what you want. You want people to talk about guys from all the way to the bottom of 15 to the top, to number 1 in the champion. However, when one only has 5 guys, there's only so much you can do, so much you can speculate, and because of that, there's less storylines and less potential you can do for things to happen. So, what's the takeaway from this? People cared about Paddy Pimblett. They talked about him. They talked about who he was fighting, who he could fight, how he would do if he ever made it to the top, and that's a good thing. That's a fantastic thing for the UFC, fantastic thing for Paddy Pimblett, fantastic thing for MMA. And there's a lot, and half of that top 15 people care about. Like here in Illinois, a lot of people like Ignacio Bahamondes, Yair Rodriguez, because they train out of Chicago. However, it's one of those things where it's like, people in their own state, like, let's go with Jeremy Stevens, right? They did UFC Iowa. People were probably talking about, like, oh, Jeremy Stevens going to fight in Iowa. When you do these things, you get people, especially the specific fans, a reason to care. And when everyone has their own little cult, when they culminate together, would you look at that? It's a big boom. It's a big boom, and you get like a couple 100,000 PPV buys, millions of views, so on and so forth. So that's what you got to do. You got to get people to care about storylines and care about the characters in the show. By characters in the show, I mean the fighters in the real-life storyline. You have to find a way to make reality seem like fiction. And not in the sense that stage shit, in the sense that, like, the way a vlogger does a story, or like Turkey Tom does a documentary, where it's like, he's just covering a locale who talks too much online, and you realize this is actually a grand narrative of the life, because all of us have narratives in our lives. Like, someone will remember us when we're dead and be like, yeah, uncle this, and this, and he was this way. It's the same way they do it here, right? Guarantee you, people, the way people talk about Prime Tony, Prime BJ Penn, there's a narrative there, and because people do that, and people cared about the career, and the promotion did a good job at promoting that fighter, that's what happens, and that's what you want. You want people to care about the story of the fighter, which is a thing that one could do better. A lot better. A lot better. So, and the UFC has people like Paddy in every division, with fighters that fans like and fighters that fans dislike, with cult followings. So the UFC is capable of crafting compelling event cards, which they have been for the most part. I know people disagree that the recent cards haven't been great, but that's beside the point. They've made compelling cards in the past, and they're going to keep doing it, even if some cards are getting a little trash. So, now, the UFC will do this with all their cards, be it Dana White's Contender Series, Fight Nights, or numbered cards. UFC 300, again, look at what came out of that. Pereira beating Hill made a big deal. Garbrandt Rosenfant is Cody Garbrandt washed. Let's look at the Contender Series. Oh man, this guy won. This guy's going to be the next big sting at this and this. Oh look, Dontel Mays via Real Osborne. Like, is that Arnold Allen? No. That's Brendan Allen. Again, people will be like, yeah, that guy's next up, and you'll get these people from who watch LFA. You'll get more hardcores to actually watch your event, and more casuals by default by making their highlight reel. Welcome to the UFC, O'Day Osborne, and stuff like that. Because you cause a stir, and you cause people to care about these things in a different way. Again, these are all different. All of these cards have different storylines involved in them, and that's a good thing. That's a good thing. That's what the UFC does. So, because of that, because of those storylines, you can now craft compelling narratives. On to the next. Now, how does one championship do this? No, they don't do it. So, and this is where we get back to One Friday Fights. One Friday Fight cards are meaningless. They're meaningless. Let me ask you this. What happens on One Friday Fights? A bunch of Muay Thai fights happen, maybe a couple kickboxing matches, and some MMA matches. Like 2 maybe. And 2 flyweight MMA matches. Almost always flyweight or bantamweight. Almost always flyweight. Maybe strawweight. And what happens? Oh, the fights are great. Okay. And what came of those fights? So what happened? Good fights happened, right? Okay, did anything come of those good fights? Did anyone move up the rankings? Did anyone get signed? Did anyone call anyone out in the post-fight interview? The answer is no. The answer is fucking no. That doesn't happen. They don't do that. And that's an issue. An issue. Again, it doesn't have to be like, hey man, I gotta fuck this dude up. It's just like, hey, I want to fight you. I know I can beat you. Kind of like Fabricio Andrade does, because he's the biggest trash talker, I think, in MMA for one. And look where he got him. He got him big success, and that was a good champion, the guy who's one of the best guys outside at the UFC and MMA. So, yeah. Now, One Friday Fights has these issues. None of the fighters are signed to the promotion. This is a problem. This is a problem because due to one being less willing to one is going to be less willing to promote them because they're not signed. And that's a big issue because it's like, oh, why should I promote you? You might just go fight for RWS next week. You might go fight for some other rinky-dink Muay Thai promotion. Why should I promote you? I'm just going to promote my signed guys. And then I'll have them fight on the Amazon card, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's a problem. And due to not being signed, there are usually no stakes to the fighters winning or losing. Sometimes fighters win contracts, but that's just not enough. It's not enough to entice fans. Oh, wow, George Jarvis got signed. Who's he going to fight next? This, and this. It's like, no. You can't be doing that. That's just not enough. A guy won a contract. Ooh, that's great. I don't know who he is. Contracts should be given out every other week on One Friday Fights. So that's what my opinion. So, sometimes fighters win contracts, but it's not enough, and the fights have no narratives and have no effect on the rankings, which renders the fights meaningless. They're fucking meaningless. Again, there are guys on One Friday Fights who are like on 6, 5, 7 fight win streaks, and you want what they get? Nothing. They don't get signed to the promotion officially. So what the promotion should do is just sign more guys and fill up the divisions. There should be 10 fighters in every division. There shouldn't be empty divisions with just the champion and like 3 guys in that division. Unacceptable. So yeah, basically meaningless fights, no narratives, no stakes. The biggest one, no stakes. So what do they do well though? Let's not complain nonstop, all right? So what does one do well? Well, the fight, like I said, the fights are good, man. One knows how to stack a card with exciting, really exciting fighters, and because of that, there's a lot of finishes, and that's good. That's fantastic. That means your cards aren't boring by default. And if you see all these big fights with knockouts and compelling narratives, man, you would be, oh my god, you'd be the best promotion in the world. And I already like one a lot. Clearly, I talked about the most about them. So they promote the, so the fights are always good, regardless of card depth, shockingly. Usually when there's lack of card depth, even in MMA, sometimes they're not great. Now, they promote stars well. If you have the it factor, one will promote you and treat you well. Super like Nabil, Nico, Rod Tang, Liam Harrison is around. If you are a guy that has any sort of a big following, like a B-level star to an S-level star like Takeru, you're gonna be someone. Like Joe Nada is a B-level star. Like, yeah, a lot of people know who he is and people like him. They'll tune in to watch him. I'll tune in to watch him every time he's on. So we're like S is again Takeru, Rod Tang, Stamp, maybe Super like stuff like that. So they do treat those guys well, and they give them good fights, and they try to keep them as much as they can. And they have good matchmaking, in my opinion, for the most part. The only time I've ever seen egregious matchmaking is just Rotting's last 3 opponents, Jacob Smith, Dennis Perich, Lee Ji Boo. But then they beat Takeru, so I can't complain, but that just makes it worse, in my opinion. But yeah, it's beside the point. But yeah, they do have compelling matchmaking that leads to exciting fights. It's rare to see a boring one fight, I'll be honest, because you just don't hear about them. So, pros. Fights are always good. They promote stars well. Let's just do a quick rundown. Like I said, exciting matchmaking is getting better with numbered events. The numbered events are getting better. And let me move myself again. Is getting good at getting better with numbered events. And they're getting better at acquiring talent. Because here's the thing. They're acquiring a lot of talent. Like Yuki Yoza, Noiri, Kaito, if he signs officially. It's good that you're stacking high quality fighters into one. But that's expensive. You're better off home growing your talent. Because again, you want to get Southeast Asians, the guys who, unfortunately, I don't want to say, are going to be cheaper than the East Asians and the Europeans and the Americans. Because, you know, they need less money to survive in their countries. You can pay them 10K USD and they'll probably be good for a year. Or 2 maybe. Again, not trying to be insulting. That's just seemingly how it is. Tanzania signed to 1 where some fighters get paid 4K bot, and he's like, dude, that's life-changing money for me. I'm like, dude, what is going on in Myanmar? I know what's going on in Myanmar. I'm not gonna talk about it, but anyway. So yeah, they're good at acquiring talent, but another thing about that is just that they acquired expensive talent, and they should be homegrown. But that's the side point. Now onto the cons. Not enough ranked talent. Not good at building talent, like I said before. Not enough narrative-based matches or meaningful matches. favoritism, clear problem, but I'll get into that another day. Not enough fighter journeys, like we explained with Paddy Pimblett, and more kickboxing matches. Duh, that's the money maker. That's the more exciting one. That's my favorite combat sport for a channel called Muay Thai Fanboy. But hey, I talk a lot about Muay Thai because Muay Thai is great. And of course, yeah, like I said, more kickboxing matches. And now, so I'm gonna move. I'm messing myself up. What is the solution for One Friday fights? Like, what is these last? Synonym for last. Anyway, what is the solution for One Friday fights? My solution, at least, is One Friday fights usually One Friday fights usually has two featured events: the main event and the featured event. So the main event, so the last fight in the card, should be a match between ranked fighters across all combat sports. And because you have 3 combat sports, that's a lot to choose from. If you had 10, a top 10, right, as opposed to the top 5, across all the board, you would always have a ranked fight, which is what it should be. So again, there should be the main event should always be between a top 10 guy or a top 5 guy, kickboxing, Muay Thai, or MMA. I don't care about grappling, sorry. But like, not because I don't practice, I just don't care to watch it. And here's the thing, the featured event should be between 2 unsigned, homegrown fighters competing for a contract, kind of like the Dana White's Contender Series does. That way you see the different levels. Hey, this guy just got here. Now I'm signed. Yeah, I'm coming for the top 10. Oh, main event guys, you see the different level. Wow, number 7 ranked guy knocked out number 2. Holy crap, is he next for the belt? Nuh-uh, the number 1 ranked guy just knocked out number 4. Stuff's that, you know how it goes. Pretty basic, right? And because of that, fans will argue, and that's good. So, that's what we need. Again, continue with my solution is, I gotta make myself smaller again. One moment. Continued with my solution, if I can figure out OBS. Alright. So, one also, like I said before, one must also increase the ranked number of fighters to build up stories. Increase rankings to temper division. This increases the division's depth and opens up more matchups and less reliance on top stars to make exciting, meaningful matchups. Focus on homegrown talent. One should focus on growing talent in the Southeast and less on acquiring more expensive Japanese and European talent when it's cheaper to convince Southeast Asians to do kickboxing and to grow both sports at a cost-effective rate. Basically, grow the sport of kickboxing in Thailand. Like, Thailand is oversaturated with Muay Thai, right? They need to do one needs to do like something like that, or there needs to be like promotions for just kickboxing for guys who just want to kickbox. Because clearly, Muay Thai, if you can Muay Thai, you can probably kickbox. And if you can kickbox, you can definitely do Muay Thai. So again, I think a good way for them to build stars for guys who are going to be good at kickboxing is just do it this way. Do it this way. Get Thais to kickbox, get the Burmese to kickbox, get Laotians to kickbox, the Cambodians to kickbox, and guess what? You can pay them less and they'll be more satisfied with that. And if they're fantastic, guess what? You now have these K1 guys, we're going to pay them a lot, and guess what? They're going to lose. These Rise guys, Glory guys are going to come in, and they're going to lose, because in one, they get crushed. That's my Chattery impression. So, yeah, I think that's a good strategy. I think that would be a good strategy. The homegrown talent, pay them less, because you can get away with it, and they won't complain as much. So, yeah, I think that would be the way to do it. So, in conclusion, one is focusing too much on acquiring top talent and making super cards. This has worked for them at times, but they need to safely build their own divisions and have plenty of, and they need, god damn it, I messed up the grammar there. But they need to safely build their own divisions and build up the talent in kickboxing and Muay Thai. Not including, because they have plenty of talent in kickboxing and Muay Thai. What was I writing there? It was on crack. But anyway, they will have to popularize Southeast Asian kickboxing to have a cheap athlete base. This is true. I know it sounds rough, but they kind of want to do that. To build up divisions at lower weight classes and even up to 170 pounds. But to do this, they must focus on narratives, promoting divisions, and making more stars in kickboxing and Muay Thai. So, bad grammar there. But anyway, other than that though, this is where I get to grow a little bit. That is my little TED Talk. And that is what I think one needs to do if they want to grow kickboxing in Southeast Asia. They want to grow kickboxing in general. So, yep, other than that, though, let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. Appreciate you guys being here. I saw Yoza and Kaito Ono's fight. Kaito Ono shit the bed just like I expected him to. Yuki Yoza is my GOAT. Let's go. Other than that, though, I'll talk a little bit more about that card. I'll probably do like a quick 10-minute video breaking those fights down, and specifically those fights, because like again, the Muay Thai fights are good, but there's nothing really meaningful to talk about. No ranked fighters fought. But that's beside the point, though. Thank you guys for being around. If you guys like this format, like this PowerPoint format, I think it's the best one I can do for you guys. I wish I could do more of the little short little video essays, but I really just can't right now. It's difficult. It's just difficult, man. So I apologize for that. I really do. It's just I'm working a lot these days, and I love this shit, and kickboxing is so niche. I'm probably never going to be rich off of this, but I love it. I'm in it for the game. I'm like, I walk up to people, I'm like, you guys know about Andy Hug? You know about the Swiss blue-eyed samurai? Oh, you do? Do it come with top, and there you go, and then I get the police called on me. So yeah, other than that though, guys, that's just basically all I gotta say. You guys take care. God bless you guys, and have a good rest of your day. Can't think of much else. Take care, guys. Woo!